So welcome back to the live portion of the Forex Active Trader program. Again, during the last little bit here, you had the assignment to work on these pairs, and hopefully you saw some interesting things that you were able to transpose from the other analysis that we did a little bit earlier. And there was quite a few questions that came in, so that was good. And questions are good. That's how we learn, right? So let's go back to, again, welcome back to the live portion. Tonight we're going to talk about Forex and pivot points. Next week we do talk about the end of the month, the start of the month. That's very important. 3 things that will boost your trading. We talked about 3 things yesterday that will absolutely kill your trading. A portion of that, some of those samples, and like tonight, the first hour from tonight, are on the website, on the sample page. Let me see. For instance, if you were to go here, and they need to update the calendar, I just sent them a note, and go to Forex Live Training, you'll find that there's the first hour is actually located right here for those who may be visiting, as this whole sample was recorded in its entirety and posted there. And then they started posting some sample videos. We lost quite a bit of data several weeks ago. We lost about 4 terabytes worth of video data, and it's been being restored, and some of the links are being updated. So they're going to go back and do that as the videos and everything get up there. And then there are clips. There'll be some clips here. So usually we try to keep around 9 minutes or so. This will be the whole first hour of the program, for those of you who'd like to go back and review that. All right, so please remember there is risk involved in trading the Forex, as there is with any other financial instrument. Please use protective stops and make good trading decisions, as well as please respect the copyrights of the show. Okay, so let's get into the discussion on pivot points. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to a couple of the pairs that we were looking at. Let's start with the euro dollar first. And in light of, whoops, not the 560 euro, we will take a look at the regular euro USD. There we go. In light of what we were talking about a little while ago, here's our chart. Here's that support level that we drew in, correct? So we're just going to put this, we created some templates a little while ago, and we put on some of the pivot points. Now, a lot of people look at the daily pivot points, and they serve a purpose from time to time. Overall, the daily central pivot is probably the most important pivot point from the daily pivots. So right now we're going to look at some of the weekly and the monthly pivots. So when we take a look at this Euro USD chart, right, and we now superimpose the pivots on here, do you begin to see how things change a little bit? So for instance, let's take a look at what's happened in just the last day. We did have, or first of all, let's go back and look at the last couple of days. The weekly central pivot's right in here, and it's a key point, right? It's the blue line that you see that's been put in there, and it's an extremely important point during the current week. Again, before this was last week, and that doesn't count last week. It only counts this week moving forward, right? So as we take a look at what we see happening here in the week, as the week started, you can see there was just a battle in and around it. We also had a monthly pivot, that red line in there, and we had a Mac Daddy play that came in and then dropped significantly. And where it dropped was, if you take a look on its way down, when something, as we talked about last week, is it cuts through a strong pivots like monthly, weekly, central, we're looking for it to continue like it did. And then it took an abrupt halt right here at this weekly pivot, and it took another abrupt halt right here at the monthly pivot before it started to turn around. And you can see that it's important, to blend all of this together. A lot of times we don't have these on the charts because some people say, oh, it's a bit confusing, they can see the lines. But hopefully now you've been watching, and using the program enough to realize now that once these are superimposed on here, not only are they, as we talked about last week, they're great points for putting a stop in. So for instance, let's look at like when we talked about last week, as far as stops go. So we had a Mac we had a Mac Daddy that's set up right in here, and a lot of people, again, here's a buy. That was that whole channel that we talked about, and a lot of people just go long the outside of it. We had a Mac Daddy here. We just had to wait for the signal. Now, once we get the signal come in, you can do one of two things. Because this is an hourly chart, stops are a little bit larger. You can put your stop back behind the swing high, which is about 58 pips, or securely here, 77. Now, a lot of people say, well, oh my God, a 77 pip top, what are you talking about? Well, you're on an hourly chart. You're looking to, get 70, 100 plus pips on a trade. You put your stop back there initially to let price begin to move. You can see as price moved down, it moved pretty much dramatically. It didn't just channel like this. You can then start to move your stop down. But if a trade requires a larger stop, it doesn't mean you trade the same size position. And I think, again, that's where most traders get killed, is that they have a trade that where they require a 20 pip stop and they trade a full lot. Then they have a trade that requires a 70 pip stop and they trade a full lot, and the ratios are skewed there. So you would have to reduce your position size for that trade. And then what we want to talk about this week is definitely looking at using these levels for profit targets. We talked about them last week primarily as for stops, but also as profit targets, and then not to be anxious about when they reach these levels. Right? So we were using them, I get, with trade. We're going to look at a little bit of trade entry as well as pardon me, trade entry as well as profit targets. So even when it hit this monthly pivot here, now a trade that a lot of people do, but we do not have it posted on the side anymore as a play because it was confusing to people. We scaled a lot of things back. It became a buffet that we had to control. There's several different ways to trade the market. We offer several different setups. We had to say, all right, let's get everyone in on a couple good setups and then move forward, right? So one trade that you can look at trading is something that we refer to as the jumper, and you're basically looking at this as a little bit, it's sort of it's more of a swing trade, and it's usually based around the hour chart. And you have that monthly pivot there, and you have the MOS, all three bands down here. And then once the signal line changes, it's the trigger, right? And then we have, that's basically our confirmation that price is looking to move in that direction. Does it always happen? No, you get little jogs like this, right? Nothing's perfect, nothing works all the time, but then it gives you the re-entry. So again, much like baseball, if you're a batter, you may have to take a couple swings at your ups, right? So sometimes you may have to take a couple swings at your entry. Again, we always say, what if you're a trader that, what if you're the type of trader that comes in and just takes one swing at it and leaves and says, oh, I got stopped out and walk away. And then you go back and you take a look and you come back a few hours later and it ran in that direction because you didn't take your second swing. I mean, just like a quarterback, who's going to let, in the U.S. football, I should say, we have a huge international audience. And U.S. football, 4 downs. Who would, okay, 1 down, that's all we want. You can have the ball back, right? It's just insane. But we don't allow anything else in the world. If first you do not succeed, try again, right? You're not frivolously trying again. You have a valid setup, like here with a slingshot, and you have to take a couple swings at it and let it go.